You just made their night. There's no better feeling than that.
Well, hey there. Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, founder and podcast producer at MaxPodcasting, and you can reach me at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. This is episode 155, and today's guest is Jake Sommers. Jake is the drummer for Luke Combs. Yes, one of the top music acts in the world. Jake has been there from the beginning and been a big part of them skyrocketing to the top of the charts and then the top of the charts, probably the top of the charts as well. Really, really cool recording this in Nashville, Music City, and Jake sharing the behind the scenes, the stories of their success, what it's like on tour, and much, much more. It is Jake the drummer, Sommers. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Jake Sommers, the drummer for Luke Combs. The man, the myth, the legend, as you also go by as well.
I'd love to.
Exactly. Jake, thank you so much for hosting us. Very, very cool recording this here in Nashville, Music City. So many cool things to talk about, but how you doing? Thanks for joining today.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. It's nice to have you guys in town.
Of course. Well, we might just move in, so thank you for that. But
I think I got a few extra beds.
This is really cool. We actually met through my girlfriend, Dana, my beautiful girlfriend, Dana, who may or may not be sitting beside here right now. But your families go way back and kind of have met each other through some Florida ties. But would love to start off today with some music, some drumming. Growing up, did you know drumming was going to be an actual kind of career path, something that would take up so much of your life when you got older?
I was always hoping it would be. I started playing when I was 6 years old. My dad got me into it, even though he doesn't play drums, but he plays guitar and he sings. And then when I was 15, I quit playing video games cold turkey, which I think was rare for a 15-year-old boy. And I knew from then on I wanted to do it professionally. So my parents said, if you're going to do this, you have to go to school for it. I said, okay. And I practiced even more hours than probably normal a day. Yeah. Then I went to school for it and studied there with some amazing teachers. Then you move to Nashville and you don't know where you're going to be.
So you're like the shining example of what happens when you give up video games. You suddenly have a lot more time to work on some other stuff, right?
Exactly. It doesn't take up a few hours of your day that you can say could be useless time for some people.
Is there something about drumming in particular that pulled you that direction?
I just always loved it. You know, going to a concert and watching the band or whoever the artist is, you see them play, but then you're always gravitated towards the drummer, I think, because of the big motions that they do to entice or engage the crowd, no matter if you're first row or if you're all the way up in the stands. They're, aside from the artist, putting on a show for you, bringing you in no matter where you're sitting, from what I've noticed from a kid until now.
Absolutely. Well, now you're like on top of everything, looking back at those people who are looking up, think of the same thing. So
yeah.
I always thought drumming was really cool. Kind of geek out about it, and
there's also something great exercise.
It is. I never heard it kind of characterized that way, but there is something just very unique about it, and with the motions, and there's just so much energy. Let's fast forward a bit. This is a question that, shout out my Uncle Randy, Aunt Sherry, who are big fans of yours, fans of Luke.
Hey, Uncle Randy and Aunt Sherry.
Exactly. There you go. Shout out for the ages. They were just really craving to know, how did you meet Luke in the first place?
I moved to town in 2013 he moved here roughly a year after I did. And I was taking lessons with a drummer in town. And I was playing with this group of guys who were older. And it was a great foot in the door. Long story short, the drum teacher said, go to writers' rounds, which there are many of them in town. And it's where they could have, say, 8 to 10 people for the entire night. They each play 3 songs. So I went to this one place called Tin Roof, and the writer's round is called Revival. Walked in, didn't know anybody there. I heard this guy play. I didn't see his face. It was so crowded I had to stand behind the stage. And when he was done, I just wanted to go talk to him because I just thought he was amazing. He had an incredible voice. And I'm pretty sure I caught his last song. And it just gravitated to it. Really got me. So I went up and talked to him and talked for a little bit. He asked me what I did. And I told him that I play drums. And he said, I have a gig next week. Do you want to play? I said, yeah, I'd love to. And if you could send me your stuff, I'll do my homework. Did that. And then was the first one to rehearsal, probably a half hour before everybody else got there with everything set up, ready to go. Did that, did the show. Then we hung out once a week, just got to know each other. And then he called me, I'd say 6 months later, and he said, hey, I want you to be my guy. You want to do this? And I said, yeah. Took a chance on me, took a chance on him, and here we are about 6 years later. It's been an incredible ride and grateful, fortunate, and he is a wonderful guy.
And that wonderful guy that you probably didn't know too much about that one day before you met him is Luke Combs.
Yes.
You just never know what like a chance
I
meeting
didn't know who
or
he was when I walked in. I didn't know anybody there. Right
was
place,
he
right timing.
When you first met? Did he when did he kind of make it clear to you that, you know what, man, I actually need a drummer and you might fit the part for that?
I guess it was just more of him calling me after we hung out over the course of 6 months, because he wasn't really doing shows then. He was more, I think, just writing. He called me and he was just like, yeah, I want you to be my guy. So I said, let's do it. You know, the first encounter was more or less, I have a show next week. I need a drummer. Do you want to do it? And it was like, yeah, I'm going to say yes to everything and anything. Thought he had a great voice. The song that I heard, an incredible song. So why not jump on that and see where it takes you?
How many occurrences, I guess, was it like that before your guys' relationship stepped up to the point that we could create like an official band out of this?
Well, he already had another guy that he knew from back home. So I was kind of the second member, if you want to call it that.
Number two, Austin Powers.
I mean, we really started touring in 2015. So from the first show that I did with him till he called me and we started doing shows, it's probably 6 months, 7 months. But we were hanging out once a week just to get to know each other and stuff. So,
at what point did it feel like things were really starting to pick up?
I mean, we were really busy when we first started touring in 2015. I want to say we did over 200 shows for the year. And I remember our smallest show was, only due to because it was booked on Memorial Day, was in Athens, Georgia. And we played this place called the 40 Watt, where like REM started, John Mayer. Even though it was on Memorial Day, we still had a solid 80 people there. And then we played it again and sold it out. So just because it was Memorial Day, we had a smaller crowd. But it was still a really fun show. When we first heard Hurricane as the number one song on XM, The Highway Find, it was a huge ordeal for all of us. And especially him, but all of us too, because we're all, trying to do it all together. I think once we hit our first arena tour, which was in 2017, we were out with Brantley Gilbert. That was a huge step. And also playing our first TV spot, which was the Today Show.
Can you put us in your footsteps, like a stadium or arena that's like close to your heart? Can you take us into your brain, into your thoughts of, the first time stepping up there, out on stage behind the drums, you look out and, oh my God, I am playing here?
Yeah, so for an arena that is definitely near and dear to my heart, in 2018, we were direct support on Jason Aldean's tour. For the people who don't know what direct support means, that means that we are the second of 3 acts right before he goes on. And we got to play Madison Square Garden. And me being from New York, I was like, wow, this truly is a dream come true. From what I was told, it was 93% filled capacity when we went on stage, which is amazing. And stepping out there before the show and doing sound checking and all that, not even just that, but like going into the arena while they were still setting everything up in the morning. I went with Luke and his day-to-day guy. They obviously know him from New York, and they're like, man, you must have come here a ton of times when you were a kid. And I said, I did, but I've never seen a concert here. I said, I've only gone to Knicks games. And I told them, I said, I remember pointing out there. And it was just so cool to like think, wow, I was coming here since I was like 5-6 years old, going to sporting events. And then my first concert, seeing it is also playing it, which was a big ordeal. And then this year, we're actually doing 2 nights back to back the weekend after Thanksgiving, and both nights are sold out, which is really cool.
I can't believe you performed at the Garden before you saw a concert there.
Right?
That's the first big
shock.
Shell-shocked
as well.
Shell-shocked. So then you kind of have that crazy, surreal moment of looking around like, oh my God, I'm going to play here tonight. It's different. It's different than sports, but on the same way, you're the headliner that night. It's like you're the Knicks, or it's like you're the Rangers, or it's like whoever, it's like that. But you are the main focus that night. You're what people are like driving or flying into to see that night. What was the feeling when you actually stepped foot like behind the drums on stage in front of a crowd of people? 93% people.
Adrenaline rush. One of the coolest moments of my life. And especially, so we do a medley where we each kind of get the solo or stuff like that. And I remember when he announced me, and the crowd just went absolutely bananas. And it was such a cool feeling. Like my parents were there and they're like, that was so very cool. Your girlfriend was there.
Dana,
a bunch of our other friends were there.
I think you could still hear Dana screaming from that night if you listen closely. Come full circle. But no, that's cool. I got chills just thinking about it because that's amazing. Like, you kind of got to the point that you started to do arenas, stadiums, TV shows. So let's hit on that for a second. How does performing on like Today's Show or one of the late night shows, how does that compare to performing in front of like a big crowd at a stadium?
It's definitely a lot different. Since our first TV spot was the Today Show, and we'd never done it before, I was scared out of my mind in the best way possible, but also nervous as hell. So we play to a click. We all have that going in our ears.
A click, is that like a metronome type thing?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
The stage manager, since I'm the one counting it off, I have to look at him. He looks at me to give me the signal. So we have the click in our ears at one tempo, and he's going 5, 4. And I'm like, well, if my one doesn't line up with his one, and we start a second late, it's on me. And I'm like freaking out. But we got it down. It was awesome. And then after that, I was like, okay, I get the hang of it. It's much more comfortable. And you rehearse it too. But the coolest one so far was definitely SNL. Same thing. Being from New York, growing up watching that show, going and seeing where they do the show and everything and how it all gets put together is such a cool experience. And you get to see skits that sometimes don't make it in the show. Or they think, we can't put this one in there. But to be able to see all that with them not being in costume to them being in costume is such a, I would say, unique experience, unless you go to a taping.
What are you doing on SNL when you're not live?
Sit there and twiddle my thumbs. No, I'm just kidding.
Twiddle your drumsticks. Twiddle something.
If we have free time and we're allowed to leave the building, I have some friends that live in New York, and I try to see them. One being one that Dana knows, and then one of my best friends just moved to Singapore, so I won't see him for a while. Honestly, you just kind of hang. They give you like an area to sit in and wait and just do that. wait around, honestly. Go get food, or you can go to your hotel room and take a nap if you need to do that. And then it's like they say, oh, you got to be back by like 7 o'clock. But other than that, once you're done with the rehearsal, you have all this time to kill. You can do whatever you want.
Count sheep, count your fingers.
Yeah, no. Count sheep.
Do you have a specific pregame routine?
I like to warm up on a practice pad about 30, 40 minutes before we go on to loosen up. I stretch. At least that's what I do. Just, get loose. And you're playing a 90-minute show. You can't go up there cold and cramp and all that stuff because it'll hurt.
What specific stretches do you do?
Some leg stretches, like calf stretches, bend over, touch your feet. Typical arm stretches that you would do in like baseball.
I didn't know if there's
nothing overcomplicated.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like a special like Jake Sommers finger stretching.
Oh, no.
It is like baseball. It's like rotator cuff stretches, and like it's such a crazy journey. I mean, when you think back to it, of kind of this by chance meeting, but good thing you decided to go that night when you met Luke, and kind of all that's transpired from there. But so many amazing successes and awards and top charting songs and all that. Like we go on and on about that. When you think about kind of the journey overall, what do you think it is that keeps you as a band so kind of close-knit, has allowed you to keep this momentum just going and going?
I would say, one, we all love what we do. I'd say playing to thousands of people and getting to do that for a living, I would say none of us take it for granted. It's a very surreal thing. Think about how many people, either our parents' age or our age or younger, they always, when they're a kid, they air guitar, they air drum to their favorite songs, and then it's like, you get to do that for a living. You get to play for 65, 72,000 people, screaming every word to every song. It's the biggest adrenaline rush I think you will find. It's also a passion. So to be able to do what you love to do as a living, play for thousands of people, which then in turn, they're paying their hard-earned money to come see you put on a great show. At the end of the day, or at the end of the show, it's like you just made their night. There's no better feeling than that.
And it all goes back to those finger stretches.
Yes, it all goes back to those finger stretches, especially the pinky.
Exactly. You got to keep those pinkies agile. You also got to keep your podcast agile. Podcasts and Pinkies, the new brand for... No, I'm just kidding. But if you are interested in building a podcast for your brand, or you already have a podcast, but it's kind of wearing you down because it's such a time commitment, it's such an effort commitment, hit me up at max@maxpodcasting.com. I will help you save time, get that high-quality podcast out the door every single week, and gifting you that time back so you can focus on the parts of the podcast you truly love, as well as building out the other parts of your business. Email me at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. Now, back to more Jake the Snake, I'm sure that's his nickname, as he dives into his biggest drumming influences. Would love to switch gears a little bit, dive into kind of how you stay inspired, how you stay creative, how you just keep your energy. Because, as a drummer, you might need more energy than everybody. I know you've done some shirtless in your days, but I remember I saw...
Recently?
Ran. We'll work out after this.
No, it happened recently.
Yeah?
Twice. Not my choice.
When you think about your biggest influences as a drummer, like who were your drumming idols growing up, and as you got more and more into drumming?
Oh man.
And we can make this like a 40-minute segment if you want.
I know. I've always loved Stuart Copeland from The Police. Just the way he plays, the way he utilizes his hi-hat. He changed the game in that. Like when he came on the scene, people were like, "Oh wow, who's this guy?" So him, Steve Jordan, who just has endless groove and pocket for days.
What does that mean by the groove and pocket? I feel like I know what groove mean. What's pocket mean?
Staying right in time with the metronome.
Okay.
And just laying it down.
Well, you called it the click, right?
Yes.
So that's literally when you're performing, that's like in your ear all the time?
Yeah.
Does that get distracting?
No, you get used to it, and also like practice to it enough, it just becomes second nature. So those two can't go wrong with Ringo Starr.
Yeah.
Grew up with the Beatles, and even though I think a lot of people think he's underrated, if you really listen and think of what he brought to the band, he was perfect for them. He didn't overplay, he didn't underplay, he played the right parts that made those songs.
And he even sang some songs.
He did. My favorite band's probably the Foo Fighters.
Oh, yeah.
And I love Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins. Both of them, amazing drummers.
Isn't that amazing? That band like sets a record for amazing drummers.
Yeah.
Because Grohl on himself, obviously, we know how talented he is.
Mm-hmm.
But some people are like, man, like is he even more talented of a drummer than Grohl? Like, it's crazy.
I also really like Max Roach, who's a jazz guy.
I love his first name.
Guy. Yes,
Big
Max.
fan.
Yeah. It's not the only reason why I mentioned it. I just always loved his playing. There was just, I don't know, it's hard to describe. There was always something about it that just I took to. And it was like, I really like to incorporate this just into when I practice on my own, regardless of the stuff I'm working on for work, but just on my own time. And to utilize it in if I'm playing like something, say I take a song that's like not funky and you make it that way, you could still put some inflections of what you took from each person in there to spice it up.
That's something I think is really cool about drummers is that you can really develop your own style.
Yeah,
like you're kind of trying to characterize it, but for you, like the Jake Sommers style, what would you say goes into kind of your own craft there or identity as a drummer?
Ooh, good question.
Thank you. I get one every now and then.
Notice a lot of the people you enjoy artist-wise, going to a concert or whatever, watching their band, a lot of their drummers play right-handed, if they're right-handed. I play what is called open-handed on a right-handed drum set. So my left hand is on an instrument called the hi-hat. My right hand's on the snare drum. Everybody else's right hand it's crossed over for them. And then when they go to their ride cymbal, they have to cross over and cross back. For me, my left hand's on my hi-hat, my right hand's on my snare drum, and when I go to my ride cymbal, I just have to move one easy effort in going back. I don't have to cross over at all.
Are you a lefty?
I am.
All right, same. We got that in common.
Ambidextrous when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's how I've played around with drums growing up. Probably a couple hours less than you have. I was the same way. Like, you look up videos and everybody's got their arms crossed on the hi-hat.
I also love Carter Beauford from Dave Matthews.
And then what's your approach to practicing look like? Like, do you have like a consistent hours a day or week that you devote to really polishing these things?
For the songs I have to learn for work, yeah. I used to, when it was a bunch of songs, and people might think I'm crazy, but I would start practicing at 9:30 in the morning, and I would go till 9:30 at night. I would only give myself like 5 minutes for lunch and 5 minutes for dinner. But as of now, we don't have to learn as many new songs. I still try to practice every day for a few hours a day when I'm home, and then take some time within that practice time just to kind of play for myself and try to break down new things I want to learn, or just not try to be hitting a wall. So even if it's not practical for what I'm doing in my work playing.
Let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A. You ready for it?
Let's go.
All right. You need to drum your answers to that. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
So you mentioned the Garden earlier. I won't let you say that for this one, but what is a venue that you've played at that you really didn't know what to expect beforehand, and then it just like blew the roof off of, wow, this is a really cool place?
So far, I would say Red Rocks
in
Colorado. That was a really cool venue. It was more of stadium seating, but the stage wasn't high up. It was like as a flat surface, and everybody's just looking down at you.
Right, it's down below. It's like a reverse of...
It was really cool, though. It was an amazing experience, and I'm glad I got to check that off my bucket list.
Who is someone that you've crossed paths with that you just find yourself a little starstruck by?
I haven't really gotten starstruck by meeting anybody like, oh, I'm so excited, but like someone did a show with, I didn't get to meet, but he walked by me with John Mayer. And I've already seen him like 4 times, and this was the 5th time technically doing a show with him, which was cool. But he walked by us when he was going to stage, and he kind of looked at us and like waved and kind of smiled, like, "Hey, like, you know, nice to see you guys," even though we've never met him. We were just all like, "What do you say to John Mayer?" So we were all just silent and just like waved back, and that was my starstruck moment of, if I can meet this guy in person, what do you talk about?
I think the silent wave's a good approach. What is a weird talent you have? I call them weird talents. So might say party trick or something that has no impact on your work, on your drumming, but you're just good at it.
Weirdly enough, and I only discovered this a few years ago, I can't believe I'm saying this on a podcast, but I found out I'm really good at chugging beer, which is not useful by any means. It's only useful to gain weight and be out of shape.
All right, well, we might have to put that to the test after this, but
I'll pass on that one.
No, that's a good. All right, we're gonna catch you up on screen at the Knicks game, chugging it like they do at the Bucks games.
Yeah.
Last one. I'm not sure which song it is. What's the number of times that's like the record for number of times you've played the same song?
Probably say like the first few songs that we started with was like Hurricane, When It Rains It Pours, One Number Away, and She Got the Best of Me, because we still play all those. And those were like the first few that really, especially Hurricane, that was the one that took off first. So we've been playing that. There hasn't been a show we've never played that at. So I've played that, I can't even tell you how many times. People always ask, does it ever get old to play the same songs over and over again? And I say no, because every show you are putting on a performance for, it could be 30 people or 30,000 people. You still have to give them everything you got and play it like it's the first time. To get that energy from the crowd, it's like, nothing is better.
Jake, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you hosting and guesting at the same time. You're just a man of many talents, but really, really appreciate you sharing the story and all kind of behind the scenes of your amazing run and everything you do. It's so cool. It's very inspiring. So really appreciate it. Where's the best place for people to connect with you or kind of follow you personally? My
Instagram is the first, I guess, best place, which is my name is just Jake Sommers, SOMMERS, then number 7. And then my website is jakesummersdrums.com.
Perfect. And then you accept Venmo? No.
Yes, I do accept Venmo and PayPal. So please pay me for, I do teach lessons. So for whoever wants to learn, I do Zoom, Skype. For anybody who does live in the greater Tennessee area, I do teach in person as well.
Perfect. We'll just wrap up with those finger stretches. Now, last thing, final thoughts. Stage is yours. It could be kind of just like, it could be a quote or words of wisdom you live by, whatever you want. Send us off here.
Something I've been just trying to do every day recently is just always be positive, even on the negative. Just try to always be positive, and even when things don't always go your way, there could always be something better ahead.
What could be better than something better? Thought of that all myself. Thank you so much, Jake, for sharing your stories, your behind-the-scene tips. Amazing behind-the-scene tips. Yeah, we'll go with it. Thanks so much for sharing your incredible success story. And thank you, Wild listeners, for tuning into another episode. If you want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to follow the Wild Business Growth Podcast on your favorite app and tell a friend about the podcast. You can also find us on Good Pods. And for any help with podcast production, you can learn more at MaxPodcasting.com. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!